I think it's a good time we can start with our speakers. We got Omer, Kevin, and Mayur. Omer from dWallet Network, Kevin from OpenLayer, co-founder of OpenLayer, and then Mayur from Arcana. Um, just quick things. I would just want to talk to the community, talk to the people. That today's topic is basically enhancing the rollup user experience. What we are doing here is we are talking about the cross-chain fragmentation. What's the result of 100 rollups that have come out? You got base, you got arbitrum, orb, everything like not the orb, sorry, op, and all of these things just bring in some more issues, although they help us with more scalability, more security. But there are issues like um, user fragmentation, there's liquidity fragmentation, and 10 other things. So we got this podcast up and running. We have 500 people right now, which is really great. And then we'll talk more about, we'll take some questions. We'll go on from what else we can do from audience as well. So yeah, just, quick thing. I just wanted to like kick it off and talk to like people here. For example, Omer and then Mayur and then Kevin. So Omer, would you want to like, introduce yourself? What's your story? How did you start dWallet?
Yeah, of course, I love this. So I am Omer Sadika. I come in from cybersecurity. I've been to intelligence unit with a focus on cryptography and cybersecurity. After that, I started a new category in Web2 cybersecurity called API security, and the first company in the space called Salt Security, which today is a unicorn, and this space is pretty large. And also on the team, we have today 16 cryptographers. The top ones, we are based in Israel. Also, the co-founders, the team, all the backgrounds are all coming from the same background, cybersecurity and cryptography. And this was our focus. We started dWallet a bit more than 2 years ago uh, with the mission to solve one of the biggest problems in Web3. We call it the silo problem, where whenever you want to do something in a multi-chain way, you have to choose between two options. The first one is to go centralized, best UX, best UI, but I don't have to explain why it's bad. The second option is cross-chain. So you can use solutions like bridges, cross-chain messaging, federated MPC, chain abstractions, and which those solutions are much better than centralized solutions, but still they have huge risk. Because those solutions are collusive, it means that the solutions can collude the participants and steal the assets, and also they can be hacked, and we have seen so many issues of that. So we wanted to create a first solution that solves this problem. So it provides native multi-chain without having to give up the security assumptions that you have in a blockchain, in a network. So what I mean by that is that, for example, if you sign a transaction, you have a private key, you know that no one can sign on your behalf, even if all the validators collude. On Ethereum, for example, or on Bitcoin, it doesn't really matter. So they can censor, but they can generate transactions on your behalf. So we wanted to have the same level of security, but in the multi-chain way. So it took us almost 2 years to create a new MPC algorithm to solve that. We call it 2PC MPC, which is the first threshold ECDSA MPC where the user is always involved. So it means that the user don't have to give up their ownership. So the network can sign without the user. And also the blockchain side is massively decentralized. So you can get to thousands of participants in the MPC and have a very scalable solution that can sign thousands of transactions per second. Right, so we combine all of those to one solution, and we call this primitive dWallet. So dWallet is the abstraction on top of that you can create a dWallet, you can program the dWallet, and as part of the integration with Avail, rollups on Avail will be able to leverage a dWallet as a new primitive, as a new building block, whenever they want to build a native multi-chain solution. So for example, you can build native DeFi protocol, right? Where you all the underlying assets directly without no wrapping, no bridges, right? You can do native staking of BTC or any other assets. Right? We're talking also with the Avail team about integrating that to as part of Fusion, right? For the staking, restaking solution. So dWallet network is a low-level infrastructure We don't have, it's a permissionless network, but we don't have smart contracts, so we integrate with other L1s and L2s to provide this new capability of dWallet. So it means that whenever you want to create a multi-chain solution protocol, you can build it on Avail, for example, and leverage the wallet capabilities at the same time.
QEDK, are you there?
Of course, I'm there. Yeah. I was wondering if we could have Mayur go next and just tell a little bit about himself.
Yeah, sure. No, happy to go next. Yeah, I got into crypto back in 2017 when I was actually on paternal leave when my son was born. Lots of sleepless nights, so that helped me actually, spend a lot of time reading up about Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that. My head was fully like 100% turned at that point, and it was clear to me that I wanted to spend the rest of my working years building in this space and doing meaningful stuff here. uh, Obviously, in the early days, it started out with very idealistic sort of like thinking and, you know, being very attracted to like cypherpunk ideology and things like that. But obviously, in the 7 years since, a lot of pragmatism has set in about just generally understanding what works and what doesn't work in this industry. But yeah, some core ideals remain, and long may they remain. Um, for everyone that doesn't know already, I'm Mayur. I'm the founder and CEO here at Arcana. We've been building Arcana for the past 3 years, and our goal is to essentially build out a whole suite of services powered by our own Validium network that we're building with the guys, the lovely people at Avail. And these are a suite of products, tools for developers essentially to help significantly enhance UX in the Web3 space. And that's our mission and goal. And we're just happy to be here and be part of this panel and look forward to the rest of it. Thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Mayur. That was great to hear. Kevin, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. Thank you. Thank you for having us. Hey guys, I'm Kevin. I'm one of the co-founders at OpenLayer. My background is in product management. Me and my co-founders, we all used to work at Robinhood together and delve into crypto together, and started OpenLayer about a year ago. So just a bit about OpenLayer. OpenLayer is a validation as a service protocol to scale Web3 using optimistic verifiable computation, which we'll chat a little bit more about on this call. And when I say validation as a service here, really what that means is we will be able to provide customizable on-demand computation services to a variety of validation problems based on their own security requirements. So one of the first areas we're tackling is going to be the Oracle space. And so our first product, Open Oracle, will be the first user-operated Oracle. It will have an open network, which allows anyone to participate, become a node operator yourself, and through that, be able to bring anything that's publicly available on the internet into the Oracle and into Web3. And that means a lot more exotic data and rich data that weren't there before will now be available to be consumed. And we're doing all of this with staked and restaked assets as a affordable security guarantee, so that we can optimistically trust the normal execution results from the operators. And so yeah, that's a bit about Open Oracle and OpenLayer, and excited to chat more about all of this.
That was great. I mean, that's a pretty cool vision. I mean, I want to see more oracles competing in the space. So honestly, very nice to see that idea. All right. So yeah, hey everyone. I'm your host along with Naruto here. I'm a senior R&D engineer at Avail, and I work in the explorations team, where I'm mostly just building random things that people might use or not use. But I think a lot of your LC challenge people are using Avail up now. Uh, and I'm really happy to see all of you guys using it, honestly. Like, I think last numbers we had, it was probably like 1 million light clients. And that was crazy. So yeah, like super, super proud to have a community like this. Thanks everyone. Naruto.
Yes, so I go with Naruto in Web3. A lot of people already know me or have seen me. I just started with Avail recently, so like I'm still a senior dev role, but a new hire here, and I've been like getting into what Avail is. I already knew them for last I think 6 months or so, so I was really big famous on what they're doing and where we are headed next, and this is why like we started this new podcast series because we wanted to talk to people about like what we're trying to solve, what they're trying to solve, and where we are headed from here. So this is the question for like all the speakers here, and like thanks for all the introduction, but I just want to like quickly ask, what do you think of the history of user experience is, how far we have come along? Because back in 2020 when I was using some of these wallets and some of the dapps, whole thing was very fragmented, and there were like a lot of issues. I see that we have came a long way from there, but now it just becomes another issue with the more rollups coming in. So what do you think? What does it look like when there are like 10 to 20 to 30 rollups coming in every day? And like whoever wants to go first, please just let me know. And like I just want to like love to hear your thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really great question. My background's in product, and so I really am passionate about user experience. And when I think about the history of the UX, I would break it down into kind of three categories. There's like the UI, there's a speed of things, and then there's what we talk about here, liquidity. When I think about UI, it's really gone better over time. I got into crypto in 2017, and I remember back then there is no UI. There's like these extensions, and maybe there's some UI, but now we have mobile apps, we have account abstraction, we have gas fee sponsoring. There's a lot of cool apps, products coming out where the UI is really getting better. On the second category, speed is also getting better too, right? With the development of, for example, more rollups and just improvements in the technology, speed is getting better. But when we talk about liquidity, and this is really the core topic here, it's not really improving, right? You start with, and when I define liquidity, what I mean is like the pockets of value and of assets, right? First, it's like you got to bridge from Web 2 into Web 3. Then within Web 3, there's different L1s. Within that, there's different L2s. And so that is becoming a problem that is much harder to manage. And when you're on-ramping users who don't even know what crypto is, it's an even harder concept to explain to them.
Yeah, I mean, just to sorry.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a product background too, so obviously UX is it's very, very important to me personally and for us here at Arcana. And yeah, in the 7 years that I've been in this space, I've obviously seen it come a very long way, like Naruto already kind of alluded to. I think initially UX was largely influenced by what typically, like some of the OGs, the maxis of the space sort of like passed down in sermon, and everything else outside of that, any thoughts outside of that were absolute heresy. But here we are today, and I think it's ultimately clear that if you want to get like users more acclimatized and using more products in the Web3 space, it's going to be evolution, not revolution. You can't force people to change their ways. And we are seeing this in all our conversations with all of our customers building, especially the ones building consumer apps who want to just grow the pie, get more users with lower friction, typical Web2 problems. And all of them, they don't care about so many of the things that we sort of, in our little echo chamber on crypto Twitter, sort of espouse to, right? And they're like, I just need users. I want more and more to come through the door, to go from landing page to home page, from home page to checkout. So how can I make that happen, right? I'm not too fluffed about things like your decentralized storage. I don't really care so much about some what sort of like blockchain people are on and things like that. They just want users, they want revenues, and I think that's a great way of just thinking about it, and that's kind of forced everyone's hand right now to kind of make very pragmatic decisions today. And I think just speaking of just like from a history standpoint, that's where we were and we've come to now. And yeah, I think Kevin already spoke about like the liquidity fragmentation issue and the UX issues that we face around there. And I think we'll talk a bit more about that as we go.
I want to talk about it more from the security perspective. I'm coming from the more from the security side. And to be honest, I think in Web3 compared to Web2, UX is a security problem because at the end of the day, right? If you look on the way that crypto evolved, we started with Bitcoin. Then you have like Bitcoin. You do everything in Bitcoin, and even if you have to handle yourself a private key, still it's not that complex, right? Because you interact with one chain, you don't have to think about all the issues whenever it comes to multi-chain that you have to deal with. And then I think when we started with Bitcoin, it was everything about security. So if you look also on the ecosystem, the people from the Bitcoiners, right? This is like their always top priority. It is about that. It's about the security, not your keys, not your coins, right? It's something that it's really part of the ecosystem and the way of thinking. And then we moved more for the Ethereum world of smart contracts, on innovation, of creating more things with the crypto than just using it for specific use cases, which I think this is the right way moving forward. But while doing that, people started to give less about security. And then we started to have the centralized solutions. And then we had all the issues like FTX and others. But it was a great solution, right? From the UX perspective, FTX is amazing, right? But then you have the issue of FTX, and then you understand why it's bad and why you don't want that. So I think we're all the time in Web3 and crypto, we're going back and forth between UX and security, but it's getting closer all the time, right? Because we're getting new cryptography, new solutions, new innovations that enables more UX than it was before without giving up security. And I think it's super important in a very fragmented world, right? Of rollups, where you can have, thousands of rollups, right? Solving different use cases, but you want to have a simple way to connect between them. You want to have a boring UX, right? When I say boring, I mean that you don't have to be expert. You don't have to know like how to do it yourself. You just want a UI that you can do whatever you want and not think about it. But you don't want to give us security, right? So I think every year we're getting more and more to that point where we can combine security and UX, and you don't have to choose one of them. So we don't have this trade-off. So I think really it's this battle between UX to security.
Yeah, Omar, I think that's a great point. I mean, we are seeing a lot of these Ethereum rollups, for example, that they're moving, kind of becoming stage two rollups, for example, right? With even lesser and lesser training wheels. So that's always been kind of the goal of progressive decentralization of Ethereum's rollups. So that's nice to see. And of course, for Bitcoin, it's a bit different of a scenario where like the security front is of course much more required for the community, I would say. But I guess on that point, let's talk about like we already know, like we have hundreds of rollups, probably expanding to thousands of rollups this year, next year, sometime, right? How dire do you think is the situation of the UX fragmentation today? Like, is like the liquidity fragmentation that bad that kind of we have to solve for it now, or is that something already working on?
I think we should start solving it right now, right? And I think this is, by the way, the goal of the wallet network, is to make it very simple to build multi-chain solutions while keeping the top level of security. But you can always improve, right? So I think we're just at the beginning. And I think what we can do today is like 1,000 times better than what we could have done 10 years ago. And in 10 years, it will be 1,000 times better than what we have today, right? So I think it's always evolving, but I think what we should learn from the past is not to try to jump too fast, right, and give up on the principles, right? So we have to try to combine. So, for example, I don't think we need to go back centralized, right, like we did 2 years ago when we had all the issues of all the centralized solution, right? So I don't think we need to take that path, right? So we need to push all the time, but we need to use what we have today and start from there.
Yeah, that's great, Omer. I mean, I hear Arcana's building something. Mayur, what do you think? How does that tie in here?
I mean, yeah, we definitely have plans, but yeah, in general, like yeah, like if you try and think about liquidity fragmentation, just take the example of like the ETH token, and then you have all these wrapped versions and all of these different chains. What are they actually used for, right? And I wouldn't say payment so much, but definitely like gas and for DeFi applications is where you need all of this stuff, which is where the ETH now needs to kind of go and get bridged and get used and stuff like that. And all of that, as we all know, is quite a pain, both in terms of UX, in terms of security, all of those sorts of things. Those are hassles. And but like the gas problem can still be solved to by say account abstraction, where you either have pay in different sorts of tokens, or if you could even solve for it in terms of like gas sponsorships, where you have different sort of business models with your customers and you kind of abstract away like gas payments completely. um, but DeFi is where it'll suffer, and that's where the dire need is. And I completely agree with Omer when he says that we should start solving it today. It's probably not terrible right now, and it's probably a lot of like hardcore crypto natives who suffer from this problem. But just imagine a new person coming in to the space, and then you're just because his friend said, there's a new meme coin on base, and then I just feel terrified imagining this person's pathway of actually going from zero to buying a meme coin on base. And that is something that we truly need to start solving for one way or another. And we are obviously have ideas, and I don't want to take up too much time talking about them right now, but definitely I think I can allude to some of those ideas in further questions.
That's great. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the the situation is quite dire, and I'm glad that this is a topic and we're all looking to improve it. I'll break it down from my point of view. There's the engineering point of view and the user point of view. I think from users' perspective, we've talked about it a little earlier in terms of the history of UX and how it's improving. I mean, for me personally, new new ecosystems with low TVL, with no infra support, essentially they become like TVL traps. And for me as a user, I only deposit into a new rollup when I see like a really good deal or opportunity or some really innovative experiments, right? And pretty much I consider any money I bridge over there to be lost. And it's really hard to manage liquidity across all of these different areas essentially. And there's not much I can do as a user. From a developer point of view, it gets even more interesting. I think with every new rollup, it requires a lot of bootstrapping, a lot of infra support, and specifically when we talk about infra support, like Oracle becomes a topic that's relevant, right? Like with us, with Oracle's, every new chain is going to need, every new rollup is going to require integration. That's a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of repetitive work. So with what we're doing with Avail, we're excited to kind of make that available for all the rollups that are working with Avail, right? And have one Oracle that's integrated with all of them, covering all of their needs. So I think there's a dire problem here, and really excited that we're here to work on it.
That was actually pretty good. So, like just moving away a little bit from like the, fragmentation and the whole, like the user experience, I just want to like touch on very briefly on what the dWallet, OpenLayer, and Arcana have those possible solutions. You may have talked or touched on them a little bit, but like, if you want to talk more about those, and what we can like expect out of you guys to actually remove the fragmentation or like actually like unify as what Avail says, right? Like the whole Avail idea right now is unification layer. So something like that, what solutions there are.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can.
no, yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead,
No,
Kevin.
are you sure?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think just adding on kind of what I said earlier from our point of view, really we want to like we think of it as a great opportunity to make Oracle solutions available across many rollups through one integration with Avail, right? And essentially any L2 that then integrates Avail can get access to these oracles, and there's less redundant work. It without the need of bridging. Basically every rollup by default can read status or data from another, and every rollup on Avail will be able to have an Oracle service by default. No additional negotiation needed, no integration or additional bridging. So we think that this is a design paradigm that can then be extended to other services as well, and can lead to a lot of rapid innovation and app chains, and create a lot of richness.
Yeah. On our side, see, the way we look at it is generally in the absence of standards, right? So, can you have a solution that is chain ecosystem agnostic, right? So, from a developer standpoint, from an end user standpoint, um, without needing to have to like literally tie into one thing that say a Polygon offers or a zk sync offers and things like that, and then then having to build versions of it on different chains and things like that. How do you kind of make something that is agnostic when it comes to not only chain but also just general ecosystems, right? So and to take that like one step further, like especially for like the consumers, right? Is there a way to find a solution where you don't even need like the end app to be able to kind of need to have a certain integration? Let's say I have a solution and which can be very useful in solving this sort of like fragmentation problem in general, and it's probably useful for someone like say an OpenSea, but no one at OpenSea is going to give me time of day, right? I'm just a solo developer working somewhere and things like that. So what is this solution that can basically be agnostic to chain ecosystem, but also not necessarily be required to kind of require like the platform and where you want the solution to kind of give you that benefit be like a be them having to integrate something in particular, because that itself is its own process. These platforms, depending on how large they are, whether it's an OpenSea, Uniswap, whoever, they'll have to go through their own cycles of figuring this out. So how do we kind of make this happen? So this is something that we started out thinking in terms of solutions, especially for consumers. End of the day, and we started to kind of get into some really funky areas in terms of like design and just implementations. I think in general, like bridges kind of solve for this problem, but they do it in like a very poor way, in a way that it's the UX is poor. They're also insecure. So, but what else can we do? So, what we are imagining is basically like I think it's a lot like what Omer also described with dWallet, but essentially, somewhere where I have say $100 on Polygon, I want to like swap it for something on Uniswap. I want to kind of buy this NFT on OpenSea, and I want to like lend on Aave, and all of this is happening on Ethereum. So how do I do this, and how do I make this happen without some prerequisite integration on any of these sides? And for me as the end user, it's a seamless experience. I just go from app to app to app. I don't I don't need to know what chain I'm on. I probably don't even have to probably even sign any transactions. And but it is still secure, it is still assured, and I get that sort of like user experience, and I'm able to kind of take this $100 that I have on Polygon and spend it by swapping, lending, staking, anything on almost any chain. And this is all without bridges, and I should be able to do this instantly. And this is what we want to kind of build out at Arcana. And I think that the ideas we have will unfold, but I think we have a very strong strong chance at achieving.
Yeah. From our perspective, from dWallet network perspective, the way that we looked into the space, right, the Web3 space, is in two ways, right? First of all, what is a real problem that we can solve, right? And now it could fit the Web3 space, the world in 10 years from now, 20 years, right? So we also wanted to imagine the future, and we didn't want to create a solution that will, be good for the next 3 years, right? So we said, let's create a solution that we're not just solving one problem, or saying, for example, we solve a UX problem. So now you can easily build something in a multi-chain way. We said also how we can build the best secure solution, right? That can replace any cross-chain solution, right? That you can think about it as the same way you think about any other chain, right? So we wanted to combine those two aspects together to one solution, because we want this project to last for the next 20 years, right, and more, right? We want it to become the low-level infrastructure in terms of native multi-chain. And that's because we believe that many of the existing solutions are not really a good solution if you think about the long term, right? So if you think about bridges, and we talked a lot about bridges, so it's not just a UX problem, it's also a security problem. And the same applies for cross-chain messaging, to federated MPC, for chain abstraction. So we really wanted to solve that problem from the root, but at the same time to provide the best UX that we can. And if we're connecting that to the fragmentation, especially if we think about the world of rollups with thousands of, even tens of thousands of rollups, or any other L1s and L2s, it's super important. It's crucial for that future.
Completely agreed. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty interesting to hear. I think the consensus here has somewhat been that uh, like you guys are kind of already tackling it. I think all of us here are aware of fragmentation issues. So actually, on that front, I think it's a good time to ask Kevin. What exactly, like, I mean, we talked about delving into this earlier as well. What does optimistic verifiable computation mean for the layman here, right? And how does it actually solve that particular fragmentation issues that we just spoke about?
Yeah, great question. I know it's a mouthful. So I'll start to frame the problem a little bit first. So we have in cryptography, we have a verifiable computation, using cryptography such as ZK. But despite all of the improvements, it's still hundreds of times slower than normal execution, which doesn't scale well. We also have optimistic execution, such as optimistic rollups. However, to be secure, there's slow finality, and again, that hinders scale. And of course, there's a centralized solution of execution, but we don't really want to fall back to that. So optimistic verifiable computation is a method that strengthens security guarantees with staked or restaked assets and allows computation to be executed optimistically. Concurrently, it also ensures that the computation and its results are retroactively verifiable using cryptography like ZK proofs, and this ensures that any malicious behavior will be penalized. Essentially, TLDR is it's still essentially it's verifiable and faster, right? And with what we also call we call it OVC. So when we think about like how it solves for the fragmentation issue is when we look at OVC and with what Avail is doing, essentially we can enable every rollup on Avail for every rollup on Avail to first have an oracle built on top of with OVC available, so it'll be faster. And then what we can do from there is extend it so that every rollup on Avail will have an option to make some transactions confirmed faster at a lower cost. And so essentially cross rollup transactions can not only be cross rollup, but also the speed can be increased with OBC.
That's great. That's honestly great to hear. Just wanted to ask a question to Kevin once more. So when you say that these transactions can be faster, you're trying to say that you will kind of either have pre-confirmations or you will have some sort of a relayer that is kind of doing it using what? Just Eli 5.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, we'll have these. So essentially, what happens is with OBC, we can optimistically, have faster finality, but then also still be able to verify it using ZK proofs, right? And then by having staked or restaked assets, we can ensure that there isn't any malicious behavior and incentives are aligned. And that's how we ensure that there's a optimistic yet verifiable computation.
That was a pretty good summary. I think I actually like the whole idea, Kevin. That's really nice. So from here, I wanted to like touch on with dWallet and Omer as well. I know like dWallet is doing a lot of good stuff with the whole like the Bitcoin L2s as well, I believe. So do you want to like explain how like the future is multi-chain and what are you like exactly doing with Bitcoin L2s as well, if there's something to do there?
Yeah, so I think one of the issues that we have today with the Bitcoin L2s, and really try to go to most of them, is that at the end of the day, they are not really embedded into, it's not like on Ethereum, right? They're not living on the same silo. Like if you are roll up on Ethereum, for example, on the settlement layer, and then you have the security. So in Bitcoin, it's a bit different, especially in terms of the BTC, right? Whenever you want to have a programmable BTC. And usually their solution is more on the cross-chain side of solutions. So some of them just use bridges, some of them use federated MPC and other solutions. But if you think about it also from the perspective of L2 and security and what level of security that you want, and also from the ecosystem, from the Bitcoiners' perspective, it's not enough. It's not something that you can rely on. And what we do with dWallet is, again, we're an infrastructure. We created a new primitive. So we're not going to be ourselves another L2 or anything like that. We're giving that capabilities to exist in L1s and L2s. And this is part of the integration with Avail. So it means that if I want to create a Bitcoin L2, I can just spin off a new rollup on Avail using dWallets. And it's not just like any other Bitcoin L2. It will be non-collusive L2, right? It means that I have the same security and guarantees as I have in Bitcoin because there is no network that can collude and steal my BTC. I need to participate in the MPC all the time. So it's cryptographically secure. And this is, by the way, our focus. Our focus in the project is to try to find the best cryptographic solutions. Of course, at some points, you have also to rely on other solutions, like more of the economic side, right? But we believe that the best approach is always to take the cryptographic path because this is the most secure and this is the path that we wanted. So dWallets can be used to any chain, right? It's not specifically to BTC. But I think right now we have a lot of focus around BTC, and I think for a good reason. And I think the best way today to have a Bitcoin L2 is using dWallet. But again, dWallet is not a rollup network. It's not an environment to spin up. It's not a DA layer or settlement layer. So the best way to do it is on a platform like Avail. And then you have a powerful integration where I want to spin up my own rollup, my own Bitcoin L2. I can do it on top of Avail using dWallet. So you can combine them. I can do it also to other chain, right? I can create a native DeFi, right? Not only to Bitcoin, to other chains, using dWallets, and I can do it on Avail. But I think our focus, is really about making it very simple and very secure at the same time. So we want all the time to keep the same fundamental, the same level of security that you have in Bitcoin or in Ethereum or in a major network. So you work all the time with the native assets. You don't work, no wrapping, no bridging. You always hold the native asset, and then you have a rollup that can create programmable BTC, right? I can write logic that controls the BTC natively on Bitcoin and not with the representation of Bitcoin. So this is our focus.
That's great. Honestly, super excited to see what dWallet has been doing. And I mean, recently we announced our integrations as well, and we'll have more announcements coming in the future as well. So everyone from the community, do stay tuned. We have more coming up. So yeah, the final question that we have for Mayur. I guess my question has to be, how is Arcana different from other solutions? And of course, what I mean more specifically is that how does Arcana's SDK app chain target UX that other platforms really don't?
Yeah, so with Arcana, we obviously want to build out this whole suite of tools. I said that right up top, right? So the thing we want to do slightly differently, and this is our approach, and once it occurred to us, it became blatantly apparent that we should kind of take this up. There are actually two things. The first thing is that we want all of our solutions to be kind of deeply rooted in cryptography, because the primary benefit is very clear, is that with cryptography, you not only get the security, but I think you also can create very, very strong abstractions. Abstractions basically lead to hiding of complexity, which leads to better user experiences, and that's what we firmly believe. The secondary kind of offshoots or benefit of doing stuff like this, where you root it in something like applied cryptography, is that you get a degree of defensibility, right? So it's harder to copy, unlike say some UX design improvements or UI design improvements that you make. So this is like the first thing that we kind of formalized and said this is going to be the backbone of what we do. And the other part, which I think is newer, but I think is a very, very crucial choice that we've made, is to actually build out all of our services as decentralized, trust minimized services on top of our own Validium. And this actually was not a novel idea. We were just exploring ways in which we can offer everything in a decentralized manner, but not really compromise on speed and throughput and things that are very important for user experiences. And over multiple conversations, it actually probably, and I would kind of, give him a lot of credit for actually putting us on this path, was us coming up with this idea that we should probably not look at ourselves as like an app chain on say Cosmos or something like that, but as a Validium. And now it's proving to be absolutely right, because now what with the Validium design, what we get is all of these pre-confirmations for certain non-critical things can go out very quickly to the user. Now, for example, if a user has to log in, do Web3 authentication and log in, they can be a very quick pre-confirmation, and the verification, the verifiability of it can come through later, right? So that's one very good aspect of it. Now, because we want to build out this whole suite, how we are imagining it as logically disparate sort of node sets that are able to kind of do unique things. Like, for example, we have our distributed key generation, which powers our Web3 authentication. We intend to have like this MPC as a service, which is essentially like to fuel like perhaps like generalized intents, the stuff I was alluding to earlier. And now what we can actually do in this sort of design is not be limited by saying, oh, this has to be EVM compatible or any of the sorts of things. This could be arbitrary code, right? The arbitrary computations, just binaries that are being run off chain by these different sets of nodes. and these node sets could be of varying sizes. And but the underlying sort of like uh, proving and data availability and the verification of these sorts of proofs of computation can happen very, very fast and on one common layer. And I think that now really helps us kind of expand our horizons without really giving up on things like security, speed, scalability, and all of the sorts of things. So that's what really sets us apart. I think we're building like a very sound foundation to be able to kind of roll out like it- basically like solutions, consumer products that are basically have features that are in people's wish list right now. And yeah, hopefully we can realize this very, very soon.
That was actually right because I've been seeing in Arcana a lot and I've been looking on like how it's different from other solutions. So definitely, like the explanation over there. And then, like the final question here is for like Q himself. Like I'm a new employee here at Avail. I'm the new hire, so I act like I don't know anything, even though I've been reading the docs for 6 months. So I want to ask, Q is like, the whole thing. How does like Avail or like specifically Avail DA help in the whole fragmentation dilemma? And then from there, how is it different DA from other DA solutions that are already out there or building actually?
Yeah, I think Naruto was being a little modest here, guys. But nice to see him being nice to me. He has never been nice to me, so I guess it's a new start for the podcast. But yeah, let's talk a bit about Avail right now that we are all here and we have all of these brilliant partners that are actually building with us. I think first, I think what's important to talk about is that the primary way that we have built Avail is to serve as the unification layer that coordinates interop and liquidity across the rollup centric future that like we're soon going to see, right? And I think a lot of people have been running light clients, for example, right? And that kind of targets more towards our primary product for now, which is Avail DA. And Avail DA today already solves for roll up scalability via scalable data availability, right? We already have a solution that is already going to be essential infrastructure for the roll up centric future that we're going to see. uh, and the LCs, for example, that people are running today are going to be a very important factor in that, because what these light clients mean is that it's basically trustless KZG commitment verification, right? So it means that you don't trust Avail nodes or Avail validators. You just trust other light clients that are actually sending you the particular sets, the particular data, and then you can kind of verify it up for a particular rollups. So, for example, here we have Arcana, right? If Arcana is running their Validium, they can just run a light client that is verifying that the data that are posted on Avail is actually posted on Avail. And that's basically it, right? That's sort of the world that we kind of envision in the future, where there will be millions of light clients. I mean, you already have observed with the current challenge millions already, but probably even more than that as the number of rollups grow. And I guess kind of this ties into why we are building Nexus as well, right? Because with the ability to spin rollups up easily using RAS, or using your existing development infrastructure, it means that there will be thousands of rollups. And this basically means that the end user experience of interacting with those said rollups are going to be fragmented, kind of what we discussed about in this today's edition of the podcast as well. And that is kind of why we're building Nexus, because that is going to act as a verification hub that unifies rollups using our already existing Avail DA as the root of trust. And this custom sort of a rollup that we have is going to be doing proof aggregation. You can kind of think of it as proof composition maybe, and act as the verification layer for those particular rollups that choose to use Avail Nexus and Avail DA for D, of course. And I guess the last bit, I think dWallet is very excited about this, is of course that fusion security, right? Because when we have a unification layer like Avail, we kind of need that additive cryptoeconomic security for the unified vision of Avail, right? We want it to be something that is unifying the roll-up centric world, right? And this basically means that there needs to be a shared economic security layer that we can leverage on Nexus, on Avail, and X other kind of roll-ups that use Avail. And that's sort of where we step in. And to kind of answer Naruto's last question about how do we differ from other solutions that we have today in the DS space, I would say I already mentioned the light client, right? And kind of what differentiates us, of course, is that we have those light clients that rollups can run today, and of course the fact that we already leverage KZG validity proofs to kind of ensure that your data that you're claiming is there is actually there. Of course, using data availability sampling, and this in tandem with our already existing vision of Nexus and Fusion, I think kind of puts us already ahead of a lot of the competitors that we've heard about. So I think that's sort of a good high level overview of what we are doing at Avail. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out via Twitter, GitHub, DMs, whatever, and I'll be happy to answer.
Yes. So, just wanted to thank QEDK about this because I don't understand what Avail Nexus and Fusion are. I'm kidding. But if I actually say it, then I'll be fired. Yeah, I'm kidding on that. But let's just
Are you
like no, 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 no. So, like I just finally wanted to thank everyone over here, Omer, Kevin, Mayur. I think this conversation was really nice to, touch on the fragmentation dilemma, on where, dWallet and OpenLayer are going, what's up with Arcana, all those different kind of stuff. And then, I just want to tell like rest of the viewers or whoever is like watching right now, we have touched 7,000, which is like a really great for the first podcast. And I just want to tell everyone that we have almost 1 million of running light clients on the testnet, so which is like a huge, huge thing. In the last week, we have tripled
well,
our,
Naruto? Sorry to
yes.
interrupt, but it's almost 3 million now. So just saying.
Oh, okay, yeah. So my mistake. We are almost on 3 billions, and we're just gonna like post these things on our Avail main channel as well, or like the official communications. But like those are the efforts that Avail project is doing as we're nearing the mainnet and all those different stuff. But yes, thanks a lot everyone for joining. We will be doing this bi-weekly, so we will like invite some of you again. We'll talk more about other ideas, other things going. And we're just happy that you are building with Avail. Really glad to have you guys on board. Thanks a lot.
Glad to
you.
have been here.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
for
me.
having. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry. Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this and giving us an opportunity to talk to you guys about what we're doing. Fantastic being here. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you so much for organizing this.
all right,
Great.
guys. Yep, we are gonna just cut this off. Thanks a lot again. Omer, I think you sadly got cut off. You wanna have some final words as well?
I just wanted to say thank you. Thanks for having us. It was really fun, really great.
Thanks a lot. Looking forward for a good unification future.